Thank you very much. Commissioner, at a hearing last March, I pointed out that with the increased sophistication of those involved in taxpayer ID theft, it looked to me like the work of organized crime. I understand that you have since stated that most of taxpayer ID theft involves organized crime. You also said that the recent taxpayer ID theft involved bulk attempts to access taxpayer records. Now, I know the investigation of this latest ID theft is ongoing, but from what I have seen thus far, it sure looks to me like this attack was undertaken by an organized crime syndicate that already had access to enormous amounts of data on U.S. taxpayers. Would you agree?
I would. As I said, there's an unimaginable amount of personal data as a result of data breaches across the economy in the hands of criminals, not only here, but criminal syndicates around the world, Eastern Europe and in Asia. And the battle is becoming increasingly more difficult, not just for us, but for everyone in the private sector. In many ways, this event is a shot across the bow to remind people the nature of the battle we're fighting and the sophistication of the enemy.
And you would then say, given that you've said you've agreed with my description of the threat, you would describe your challenge as making sure you're in a position to have a game plan so you can stay ahead of these increasingly sophisticated threats to our taxpayers.
Right. Whether we're ever going to be able to stay ahead or not is the challenge. Our goal right now is to try to make sure that we're at least even with them and understanding what's going on and being able to protect taxpayer data and taxpayers from these ongoing attacks.
Let's talk for a few minutes then about the game plan that you would have to have. As I say, I think the sophistication of these organized crime syndicates is such that whenever you close this door, they look for the next one. And that's why I talked about how we're going to try to take them on. It seems to me it comes down to having the people who have the skills and experience to combat the threats, the critical pay authority to be able to hire them, and sufficient funding to upgrade the IRS computer security systems. Is that generally the elements of the kind of strategy that you want to have?
Those cover most of the significant points, particularly what we call the streamlined critical pay. It's a small number of people that we're authorized to hire, but it allows them. Our present head of information technology is on streamlined critical pay. That program worked for about 14 years, was not extended 2 years ago. I was just talking to our IT head. We had two very senior, sophisticated IT people we could not hire because they did not want to go through the normal government process. So it's critical to us. It's total authorization of 40. We had 29 when I started. We're down to 16 as that program runs off. The head of our cybersecurity unit is a critical pay. Our online services program director was a streamlined critical pay authority. So that authority is critical for the small number of people we need who are going to be world-class experts at dealing not only with technology but with security.
What does this committee need to do? Because you've heard Chairman Hatch and I indicate we want to work with you on a bipartisan basis to address this. What does this committee need to do to assist you in executing this game plan to make sure, for example, you have an adequate number of people in cyber and these kinds of issues?
Well, I appreciate the Chairman's note that we need to work on this together. This is not an issue that has a political overtone to it. This is a challenge that faces every American, faces every company in this country. As I noted, if we could get W-2s and information returns earlier, it would allow us to be more effective in protecting identity theft to the extent that we could get authority to, in fact, adjust the way the Social Security numbers are produced on W-2s. It would help us ensure that those W-2s are not fraudulent. There are other legislative supporting issues, including streamlined critical pay, that would be very helpful. And obviously, I think the Chairman's right. We have not made a point in this presentation that budget is an issue, but we are running an antiquated system with some applications that are 50 years old. As noted in some cases of the IG noted, we haven't even been able to provide patches for all of the upgrades. Some of our systems don't have patches because they're no longer supported by the providers. So We obviously do need jointly to figure out what's it take to make sure that this system is able to be protective of people.
Commissioner, thank you. It just is clear to me that if you have IT from the dark ages, you're not going to be able to stay on top of these kinds of problems. So I'm committed to working with you. And you note, I also mentioned in my opening statement, there's some very good people in the technology sector, people who run major tech firms that I think would also be available to work with you all. So we're committed to making sure that you understand there's a bipartisan effort to help you put that game plan in place. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.